now Professor Academy is providing a few classes or some introduction to our NET Sociology syllabus as YouTube live sessions, and we have covered some topics in the previous sessions. So if you're finding these sessions useful, you can actually join Professor Academy's UGC NET Sociology course, and the classes will be starting soon, mostly in the next week. So if you are interested to join our course, you can join now so that you won't be missing any classes. So try to join as soon as possible. And in our actual sociology course, in addition to our classes, we will also be practicing previous year questions. There will be MCQ sessions, there will be weekly test paper series and proper evaluation and all. So it is like a proper, or it is like a complete package. So if you really want to crack your NET Sociology examinations in the upcoming June session, you can join our course now. Okay, so I'll be providing more details about our course towards the end of the class. So for now, let's start our class. So today also, like yesterday, we studied about major concepts or major things related to marriage, family, and kinship, and we discussed about different types of family, different types of marriage types, lineage, descent, and all. So today is a continuation of the yesterday's class itself, and in today's class we will be discussing all those concepts of marriage, family, kinship, and all that in a or from a Indian view, or from about Indian or in the Indian context. So today we will be discussing the concepts of marriage, family, and kinship in an Indian view. Okay. So first, let's start with lineage and descent in India. So yesterday we already studied about what is lineage and what is descent. What are the major differences between both of this? So I'm not going there again, or I'm not going that much deep into these concepts now. Now let's just focus on these two concepts in the context of Indian society. Okay. So what is lineage and descent in India, or how is it? So social structure of India is defined by cultural principles which are propagated by social institutions like lineage and kinship. So the social structure of our Indian society is very much influenced by various cultural principles which are propagated, or cultural principles which are created by the social institutions like lineage and kinship, which means that our social structure of our Indian society is very much dependent on, or very much influenced by these concepts of, or these social institutions, lineage and descent. And the significance of this lineage and descent in India, or the role of this lineage and descent in India, is studied by various scholars. And the major scholars were Kumaraswamy and Pure. So not only them, but including them, so many scholars studied about the significance of this lineage and descent in India. And these thinkers used concepts like Kula or Gotra. Gotra can be, we can call it as something similar to clan. So these thinkers used the concepts of Kula or Gotra to refer to descent and lineage in India. Okay. They used concepts like Kula or Gotra to refer to descent and lineage in India. Then what is Gotra? Gotra is a unique lineage related, or a unique lineage related concept used in India. So it is unique to Indian society. So Gotra is a unique concept which is related to lineage which is used in India. And this Gotra is similar to the concept of clan. Okay, Gotra. Yesterday we studied about clan, and this Gotra is somewhat similar to the concept of clan. And Gotras are an exogamous unit. Yesterday we studied this also. So you can find so many things we studied yesterday in this class also. But today we will explaining those in an Indian perspective. That's only the difference between yesterday's and today's class. So yesterday we studied about exogamous marriages and endogamous marriages, or exogamy and endogamy. So Gotras are an exogamous unit, or we can say Gotras follow exogamy. Okay. So what is this exogamy? Exogamy means marrying from outside the group. Isn't it? Endogamy means marrying within one's own group. And yesterday we talked about lots of examples also, like caste endogamy prevalent in our society. Then for exogamy, we said examples like village exogamy. So like that, Gotra is also an exogamous unit, and marriage within the same Gotra is prohibited by custom. So according to the customs, marriage within same Gotra is prohibited. People can never marry within their own Gotra. So Gotra is an exogamous unit. Then they believed that the members of a Gotra descended from a same real or mythical ancestor. So the ancestor of Gotra can be real or mythical. Okay, and people believed that the members of a same Gotra descended from a same real or mythical ancestor. So because of this, because they believed that they are the descendants of a same ancestor. So because of this reason, the members within same generation considered as fictitious kins. So they had a feeling that they are kins, they are related, somewhat related, because they thought that, or they believed that they are the descendants of a same ancestor, and because of that, there was a belief that the members within the same generations are fictitious kins. Okay, even though they are not related by blood or not related by marriage, they had a belief that they are kins, and this kind of kinship is known as fictitious kins. It is not related on blood or not related by marriage. So this kind of kinship is known as fictitious kins. Okay, now in our Indian society, the dominant form for deciding lineage was patrilineage. Our society was mostly patrilineal, but still we can find some other forms of lineage also in some places, but the dominating form of lineage was patrilineage. Okay, lineage which follows father's line. Yesterday we studied about this also. So patrilineage means deciding the lineage through father's line. So that is patrilineage, and it is the dominant form for deciding lineage in India. And like I said before, other forms of lineage also exist, like matrilineal, bilineal are also there. But they are very much rare comparing to patrilineage. It is the dominant form. So from the other forms of this lineage, one of the important one, or we can say unique type of lineage system is matrilineal Tharavadu system of Kerala. It is also known as Marimakattai. So this is some kind of a unique system of lineage which existed in Malabar area of Kerala. It was matrilineal. They followed the they decided lineage through mother's line. So that is known as matrilineal. And this system is known as Tharavadu system of Kerala, and it is also known as Marimakattai. Okay. It was prevalent in Malabar area of Kerala. And in this system, the descent or inheritance of property was traced through females. Okay, the descent or inheritance of property traced through females. And like in other patrilineal systems, in this matrilineal Tharavadu systems, the descent, not only descent, but the inheritance of property. The property was also handed over from one female to another. It was traced through female line. And the oldest living male member in that Tharavadu, he acts as the manager of the Tharavadu. Okay, you don't have any descent or inheritance of property rights, but the oldest living male of a Tharavadu acts as the manager of the Tharavadu and look after the properties of that Tharavadu. Okay, so that was the role of a oldest living male in matrilineal Tharavadu systems. So this is an important point or concept. So this is a unique type of lineage system existed in India, and it was prevalent in Malabar areas of Kerala. Now it is changing, like all other changing structures of our society. These matrilineal systems are also vanishing from our society. Matrilineal and patrilineal. Now all of this lineage has become, most of it has become neo-local or bi-local or something like that. But still we can find lineage systems dominating in society. But changes are happening all around, and this matrilineal Tharavada systems in Kerala like it is almost vanished from society. Okay, then various scholars or various thinkers talked about this systems of lineage in India, or lots of different thinkers studied about this lineage systems in India, and most of them gave so many important ideas about this lineage systems in India. And let's discuss some of the core ideas given by such thinkers or scholars about this system of lineage in India. So the first one is 𝙭. According to G.S. 𝙭, Gotra is universal in India. Okay, we already said that Gotra is a unique system of lineage which is prevalent in India. And 𝙭 was of the opinion that, or he found that Gotra is universal in India. Okay, and it is a source of unification and division. At the same time, Gotras unify people and it can divide people. Okay, so it is universal in India. We can find a kind of Gotras or a kind of patterns or divisions like Gotra in all around our Indian society. And he defined it as it is a source of unification and division. It has the power to unify people and divide people. By division here, it means that when a people belonging to a particular Gotra comes together, or when they stick together, then other Gotra is getting separated from them. So in between this Gotras, a separation is forming, or like each Gotras are separated from each other. So in that kind of a perspective, or from that kind of a point of view, we can say Gotras has the power to, divide society. But it also acts as a source of unification. Gotras bring people together, or people who belongs to a Gotra have a feeling of togetherness or a unity or a feeling of kinship. So Gotra is a source of both unification and division. Then he also talked about another concept which is Kula. So in case of Kula, the lineage where people identify their source of origin and they worship a common ancestor. So Kula is a kind of lineage where people identify their source of origin, or people trace back to their origin or ancestor, and people belonging to a Kula worship a common ancestor. Okay, so that kind of a lineage is known as Kula. It is also unique to our Indian systems. So that is 𝙭's concept, or 𝙭's major ideas about lineage system in India. Now, Kumaraswamy. According to Kumaraswamy, rules of marriage are greatly determined by doctrine of Kula and Gotra. So Kumaraswamy found that rules of marriage or marriage systems in Indian society are greatly influenced by this Kula and Gotras. Okay, that is Kumaraswamy's opinion. Then T.N. Madan, in his book Family and Kinship, a study of the Pandits of rural Kashmir. So in this book, T.N. Madan said that entire community gets related to each other on the basis of primary, secondary, and tertiary kinship. So according to T.N. Madan, a whole community gets related to each other on the basis of primary, secondary, and tertiary kinship. We will study later what is this primary, secondary, and tertiary kinship. So according to T.N. Madan, this primary, secondary, and tertiary kinship will bring together members of a whole community together, or it relates members of an entire community with each other. Okay, then let's look at what was feminist perspective about this lineage systems. So feminist scholars like Uma Chakravarti, they approached lineage and descent as perpetuating unpaid labor and patriarchy in Indian society. So according to the views of feminist scholars like Uma Chakravarti, according to them, this lineage and descent perpetuates, or it increases unpaid labor and patriarchy in Indian society. So according to them, this lineage and descent systems would increase the systems of inequality, or systems of unpaid labor and patriarchy in Indian society. So that was feminist viewpoint on lineage and descent in India. Okay. Then now let's move to next concept, which is types of kinship systems. So now yesterday we already discussed this about consanguineal kin, affinal kin and all that. But today we will be discussing this from an Indian point of view, or like we will be discussing types of kinship systems which are prevalent in Indian society. Okay. So already we know the definition of kinship system, but let's just look at the definition once again. So kinship systems means, or kinship means, a set of persons who recognized as relatives by virtue of a blood relationship or consanguinity, or by virtue of a marriage relationship or affinity. So this is the most basic description of kinship systems. Okay. And like I said in yesterday's class also, like now in the current society or in current scenario, we cannot limit kinship systems to only this blood relationship and marriage. Today, the whole definition or the concept of kinship has changed. But still, this is the most basic definition of kinship systems. It is a set of persons who recognized as relatives by virtue of a blood relationship. It is known as consanguinity, or by virtue of a marriage relationship. It is known as affinity. Okay, so that kind of a relation is known as kinship systems. Okay, so people consider themselves as relatives either through marriage or through blood relationships. Then broadly, these kinship systems are of two types. Yesterday we studied this. What are the two types of, or broad classifications of kinship systems? They are affinal kin and consanguineal kin. Affinal kinship is based on marriage, and consanguineal kinship is based on blood relations. Okay. Then 𝐻𝐸 also talked about another kind of kinship, which is fictive kin or chosen kin. This also we discussed yesterday, so I'm not going deep into this, or I'm not going to, explain each of these terms. We already studied this. If you haven't watched yesterday's class, please go and watch that class. So we have already discussed a lot of kinship terms and kinship types and types of marriage in yesterday's class itself. Okay, so if you haven't watched yesterday's class, please watch that also, so that you will get then only you will get an idea about this whole kinship systems and all. Okay, so 𝐻𝐸 also proposed about a particular kind of kinship, which is fictive kin or chosen kin. Okay, then kinship systems can also be classified on the basis of descent method. Okay, we can classify, or this kinship systems in India is classified based on different methods. So just broadly, they are classified into two, like in every other societies, affinal kin and consanguineal kin. Then kinship systems in India can be classified on the basis of descent method into three types: patrilineal kin, matrilineal kin, and bilateral kin. Okay, so these are just the major three types. So based on descent method, we can broadly classify, or these are the major types of classification of kinship systems based on descent method: patrilineal kin, matrilineal kin, and bilateral kin. So patrilineal kin means descent traced through males. Matrilineal means descent traced through females. Then bilateral kins means descent traced through both male and female. Okay, so these are the three major types of, or major classifications of kinship system based on descent method. Okay, then there are also some classifications or kin groups based on various cultural notions also, like Sapinta group, Sarika group, Kula, Gotra. So these classifications are based on different cultural notions. Among this, Sapinta we discussed yesterday. So like that, these kind of kinship classifications are based on various cultural notions, or based on various cultural peculiarities, we can say. Then Murdoch, G.P. Murdoch explained about, or he used two types of kinship terms to explain kinship behavior. Okay, this is important. So Murdoch proposed two types of kinship terms in order to explain kinship behavior. They are terms of address and terms of reference. Okay, so these are two types of kinship terms used by Murdoch. Terms of address and terms of reference. Terms of address means culturally patterned relationships among individuals. So terms of address denotes the culturally patterned relationships among individuals. For example, based on our culture or like rooted in our culture, there are already fixed relationship sets or patterns of relationships exist in our society. For example, we can say the relationship between our not only or these kinship relations are not only limited within our families, and it is a wide concept, and we can find our kins from both sides of our parents family, and also it is like a chain reaction, it goes on. So based on each society's culture, this relationships also changes, or there are particular relationships which is decided by our own culture, isn't it? Like in our culture or in our society, we have very much important relationships, or we keep strong relationships with our mother's brother, like our father's brothers or father's sisters. So in our society, we gave or our culture, due to our culture, we give so much importance to that kind of relationships also. So our relationships are not only limited to our father and mother, or our you know close relatives like father, mother, or siblings, but in our society our relationship is more wide, like we keep strong relationships with our uncles or our father's siblings, our mother's siblings, and all. So this terms of address denotes this culturally patterned relationships among individuals. So it denotes relationships. Then another kinship term is terms of reference. So it is a linguistic symbol involved in the relationships. Like linguistic symbols means the words or titles we use to call our relationships. For example, we can say our mother's brother, uncle, we would call him mama, ammava in Malaya, in Kerala. So like that, each of those kinship relations or relationships have already assigned titles or linguistic symbols, isn't it? We call our mother's brother mama or ammava. Then, like that, we call our father's younger brother chittappa. So, like that, there are already fixed linguistic symbols. Linguistics is related to language. So, here, linguistic symbols means the terms or the words we or the titles we used to call them. So that is what is known as the terms of reference. The words we use to refer our relationships or the individuals or our kins. So that kind of titles or terms we use to refer to our relationships are known as terms of reference. And one thing which we can connect to this terms of reference is that sometimes we can use a single term to address more than one kinship relationships. For example, if we take in Kerala, we call our mother's brother mama. Then we also call our father's sister's husband also mama. So that mama, that title mama is not only limited to my mother's brother, but we use that term mama to refer to other persons also. So in some cultures, a single term of reference can be used to refer to more than one relationships. Okay, so that terms of references also changes according to culture or changes according to changing society. But in some societies, there are particular nomenclatures or fixed nomenclatures of or terms of references to call each of those relationships or call each of those kids. But in some societies, we use some terms as common or in general to refer to peoples. Okay. Then we can also classify kins based on its degree of kinship. Okay. And based on the degree of kinship, we can classify kins into three: primary kin, secondary kin, and tertiary kin. So primary kin means our close, direct, and near kinship relations are our primary kin, like father, son, sister, brother, spouse. So that kind of close, direct, and near kinship is known as primary kin. For example, I can say in my case, I don't have any siblings. I don't have any brother or sister. So my primary kins are my father and mother only. So like that, our each one of us, like we can find our primary kin to our close, direct, and near. Some have their sisters or brothers, and if someone have a daughter or son, then that is also their primary kin. Then their husband or wife is also primary kin. So the kinship relations which are close, direct, and near to us are called our primary kin. And S.C. Dubé proposed that there are 8 such primary kins. We can identify 8 such primary kins in our Indian society. Okay, so that is primary kin. Then the next type is secondary kin. And the secondary kin denotes primary kin of primary kins. Okay, this may sound confusing, but primary kins means our primary, our close, direct, and near kinship relations. Then secondary kins means the primary kins of our primary kin. For example, in my case, I already said my primary kins are my father and mother. Then when it comes to my secondary kins are the primary kins of my father and my mother. Then it would include my grandparents from both sides, my father's parents and my mother's parents, and my father's siblings and my mother's siblings. Okay, so that is my secondary kin. The primary kin of my the primary kins of my primary kin is my secondary kin. Okay, and Murdoch found Murdoch said that there are 33 secondary kins of a person, or we can find 33 types of secondary kins in a society. Then there is tertiary kin. So tertiary kin is a bit more confusing. Tertiary kins means tertiary kin can include secondary kin of our primary kin and primary kin of our secondary kin. For example, to identify my tertiary kins, it includes the secondary kin of our primary kin, which means my primary kins are my father and mother. So my tertiary kins include the secondary kin of my father and mother, and then the primary kin of my secondary kins, which means the primary kin of my secondary kin. My secondary kins are include my grandparents from both sides and my parents' siblings. So this is tertiary kin. Tertiary kin include the secondary kins of our primary kin and the primary kin of our secondary kin. And Murdoch said that there can be 151 type of tertiary kins can be identified from our Indian society. Okay. So that is the classification of kinship or kins based on degree of kinship: primary kin, secondary kin, and tertiary kin. I hope it is clear. Now let's move to our next concept, which is family and marriage in India. Okay. Family and marriage in India. So in our traditional society, or in a traditional perspective of our Indian family system, the traditional family system is considered as joint family system, isn't it? We all know that. Like traditionally, the family system existed in India were mostly joint family systems. So the traditional concept of family system in India denotes joint family system. But due to various factors or due to various reasons, the conception of family in India also changed. Like we discussed in yesterday's class, the family structure around the world is changing. The structure has completely changed, and now we can identify more new type of family structures and all. So like that, due to various factors, the structure of family or the concept of family in India has also changed. And when we consider the traditional, our traditional joint family system, different scholars studied this joint family differently or using different perspectives. So thinkers like or scholars like M.S. Gore, 𝙬𝙧𝙚 𝐎, Henry May, so scholars like them, they studied or viewed this joint family in terms of greater generational depth, common residence, common kitchen or eating together. So this eating together or common kitchen or eating together can also or called as commensality. So then joint property and authority of karta. So some thinkers or some scholars studied this joint family in terms of all these concepts. So according to some scholars, this common residence was very important, or in order for them to considering some structure as family, common residence was important. But later, scholars started to, you know, or new viewpoints or new theories also came that common residence is not a mandatory feature of families. So lots of new structures or lots of new concepts also emerged in related to family structure in India. But some of them still approach or consider family in terms of this common residence, common kitchen, joint property and all. Okay, so these are some of the key factors which affect the jointness of family or which promote or or which affect the jointness of family. First one is commensality or common kitchen. It is a key factor which affect the jointness of a family. Then common residency, living together in same house. It is also a key factor. Then co-scenery or joint ownership of property. So in case of our traditional family structures, this joint ownership of property was also a major feature. Then relative strength of conjugal and consanguineal bonds. Strength or relationship between kinships based on blood and marriage. Then cooperation and sentiment. It is also a major factor when it comes to the or when we consider the jointness or unity of family. Cooperation and sentiment. Then there are ritual bonds which bring people together in as a family. Like there are certain rituals which are supposed to be done by certain family members during several occasions, like we can say marriage ceremonies. There are some particular roles assigned to each of the family member, like father should do this, mother should do this, bride's brother should do this. So like that, there are so many ritual bonds associated with or assigned to each of the family members in a family. So these ritual bonds would also bring people together, or it also promote the jointness of family. Then the kin relations between members. The jointness of family also depends on how strong the kin relations are in between members. Then generational depth. So based on this generational depth, a joint family is usually defined as three generational family, or a traditional joint family is considered as a family in which three generations of people live together. Okay, so these are the key factors which affect the jointness of family. Then A.M. Shah, in his book The Household Dimensions of Family in India, gave so many important viewpoints about the family structure in India. So according to A.M. Shah, in post-independence India or in India after independence, joint families steadily increased. So, we would think that after independence and all, people would mm, mm, people might have scattered and started to live in nuclear families. But A.M. Shah uh, found that after independence or post-independence India, joint families steadily increased, and this is mainly because due to the increased life expectancy and orientation of members. So due to these reasons, M. Shah said that the joint family has steadily increased in post-independence India. And he also added that maybe the census numbers of households might have increased. If we check the census numbers after post independence, we can see that the household number of households might have increased, but it doesn't mean that nuclear family increased. So he sticked on to his viewpoint that instances of joint family increased in post independence India. So he considered this, or he talked like this mainly because he was approaching this family structure from a perspective of orientation towards kinship. Okay, he was not considering the concept like living under the same roof or sharing a common residence or sharing a common kitchen, but he was talking about family mainly from a perspective of orientation towards kinship or the relationship between kins. So when we approach this from that kind of a point of view or perspective, we can say that instances of joint family increased in India after independence. Okay. Then 𝐾𝐚 attached four meanings to the term family in Indian context. They are family as a household, family as a social group, family as a kinship unit, and family in terms of common lineage. So family as a household means a group of people living in the same dwelling unit or in the same building or in the same house. That is family as a household. Then family as a social group means that it consists of parents and children whether living together or not. So according to him, uh, in order to consider a family, consider a social structure or a social institution as family, it is not mandatory that the parents and children should live together. So according to him, in his point of view, in a family or in family as a social group, it consists of parents and children whether living together or not. Okay. Then next one is family as a kinship unit. So in this, in this term, it includes or family includes all those who are closely related by blood or marriage. So that is family as a kinship unit. Then another next one is family in terms of common lineage. So A.M. Shah described family through this four meanings by attaching four meanings to family. Family as a household, family as a social group, family as a kinship unit, and family in terms of common lineage. Okay. Then K.M. Kapadia, in his book Rural Family Patterns, K.M. Kapadia defined joint family in terms of generational depth, common kitchen, authority of Karta, etc. And he also said that even though most families are nuclear in structure, they are joint in operation. So that was K.M. Kapadia's opinion. Though most families are nuclear in structure, they are joined in operation. Okay. Then I.P. Desai also talked about jointness of family. So he talked about this topic mainly in his book, Some Aspects of Family in Mahua, a sociological study of the jointness in a small town. So he talked about the jointness of family mainly through this book. So Desai studied the jointness of family in terms of degree, intensity, and orientation. So he studied family or the jointness of family based on these three terms: degree, intensity, and orientation. And he found 5 degrees of jointness in family. They are, first one is households with 0 degree of jointness. So that kind of households are totally nuclear households or totally nuclear families. They are households with 0 degree of jointness. No jointness is there. They are known as households with 0 degree of jointness and they will be totally nuclear. Next type is low degree of jointness. So this kind of families are joined only by way of mutual fulfillment of obligations. Like they just do their own duties in the family, but no other relationships or attachment more than that. So that kind of families are known as or having low degree of jointness. Then there is high degree of jointness. So in this families, this jointness is created by way of common ownership of property. Okay, so that kind of families have high degree of jointness. Then there are households with highest degree of jointness, and they are equivalent to traditional joint family. So these are the 5 degrees of jointness found by 𝐼𝑃 Households with 0 degree of jointness, low degree of jointness, high degree of jointness, and households with highest degree of jointness. Okay. Then he also talked about another type of family, which is functional joint family. So in this type of families, although the members of a family are living separately, the individual gives importance to the fulfillment of obligation towards kin, especially parents. So in this type of family, the members of the family might be living separately in some other places or somewhere. So, but still, even though they are living far away or living separately, the individual gives importance to fulfilling their obligation or fulfilling their duty towards kin, especially their parents. For example, we can say a person who living in the city for their job purposes, but still they keep sending money to his parents. So that kind of a family is known as functional joint family. Structurally, they might be different, but functionally, that family still acts as a joint family. That is functional joint family by 𝐼𝑃. The next is traditional joint family. So according to him, a traditional family is a family which has 3 generations living together in a same house. That is traditional joint family. Then another type is marginal joint family. So in such kind of families, there will be only 2 generations living together. That is marginal joint family. So traditional joint family, there will be 3 generations living together, but in marginal joint family, only 2 generations live together. Then there is substantially joint family. So the substantially joint family is based on common property ownership. That is substantially joint family. So these are the some other types of family discussed by 𝐼𝑃. Okay. Now K.M. Kapadia also talked about similar kind of classifications of family like 𝐼𝑃. So K.M. Kapadia's types of families include nuclear with married sons, lineal joint, collateral joint, and then joint family with dependents like widow sister. So these are the 4 types proposed by K.M. Kapadia. Then M.S. Gore proposed a 3-fold classification of joint family, which are filial joint family, fraternal joint family, and then filial and fraternal combined family. So these are the 3-fold classification of joint families proposed by M.S. Gore. So the first one is filial joint family. So in this kind of family, the parents live with their married children and their offspring. So in filial joint So in filial joint families, the parents live with their married children and the kids of their children. So that kind of a family is known as filial joint family. But then there is fraternal joint family. So in fraternal joint families, the married brothers live together with their children. That kind of a family is known as fraternal joint family. Then there can be a combination of both of this filial joint family and fraternal joint family. That is the 3rd classification. So this is the 3-fold classification of joint family by M.S. Gore. Then we already said that so many factors affected joint families in India, and it led way to the formation of new types of families. So these are some of the contemporary factors which affected joint family systems in India. First one is economic factors. So economic factors like increased opportunities and diversification of occupation. When people started to get more opportunities and when new types of jobs emerged, people started to leave their families and they started to move to other places in order to do work. So this resulted in a structural change in the change of joint family. Then also another factor, like production is now not confined to home and land. Now, so now people don't have to live all together as a joint family. There is no need for that. Now people uh, have the liberty, or people can now move away from their joint family, and people can move to places where they get a job. So because of these economic factors, so many changes happened in the structural joint families in India. Then another factor is legal factors. So legal factors like inheritance rights, rule of law, equal status of women, legislations regarding education, employment, marriage, and property. All this also reflected in uh, changes happened in joint families in India. Then new forms of families, or the development of new forms of families like live-in relationships, single parent families also is a reason for this changes. Then divorce and separations. Divorce and separations was considered as a taboo in our older societies. Like when a person get a divorce or get separated, people would see them like they did some kind of a sin. But now the condition has changed a lot. Now people have more freedom to get a divorce if their marriage relationship is not going well. So this has also resulted in creating so many changes in this joint family structure. Okay. Then educational factors. Of course, when people got more education, people became educated, then many of them started to move out from their families and started to go to other places for education or for work related factors. And this education also created an awareness among people, or people became more aware about privacy or individualization. So factors like this, educational factors, that indirectly led to some other factors also. So this is also an important reason. Then there are cultural factors and westernization, urbanization and industrialization, land reforms. Then lack of facilities in rural areas. It is also an important reason for the collapse of joint families. Due to the lack of facilities in rural areas, people started to migrate to cities. And in cities, it is not possible to live like a joint family, because people have to go, or people were mostly settled down in cities around their workspaces. So forming a joint family is not possible in cities. So the lack of facilities in rural areas caused the migration of people from rural areas to cities, and this also resulted in the breakdown of joint family systems in India. Then another reason is individualism. People started to you know started to started putting them before everything else. People started to give importance to their privacy, their personal matters. So this also reflected in changing structures of family systems. Then changing nature of cultural functions and economic migration. So all these are the major reasons uh, for the changes happened in this joint family structure in India. Okay. And this disintegration or the collapse of this joint family system affected different members of the family differently. For example, like the authority structure has changed tremendously, isn't it? But when it was a joint family, there would be a single head for that family, and he would control all the economic and all the things happening in that family. But when the family started to break down and started to form a nuclear family, this authority structure also collapsed. Then more liberty to women after the disintegration of joint family actually gave women more liberty. And it has also impacted the weaker members of the family. So they were the one who actually faced problems because of this disintegration of joint family. Like weaker members means younger kids, or like aged people, or specially abled people. So people like that were the ones who faced the impacts of this disintegration of joint family. Okay. So now let's move to our next concept, which is marriage in India. So like everything, like family and kinship systems also, changes also happen to marriage in India. Okay. So many changes actually happened in the marriage systems of India throughout years. So, so the most important change or an evolutionary change happened to the marriage system in India is the widow remarriage. Okay, so that was a revolutionary change which happened in Indian marriage system. Widow remarriage, which was facilitated by social reformers like Rajaram Mohan Roy. Another important milestone in this marriage is there was the raising of marriageable age through Sharda Act or Child Marriage Restraint Act of 1929. So through this act, the marriageable age has raised. It was also a major milestone in the history of marriage in India. Then the legislation of Hindu Marriage Act 1955 and Special Marriage Act 1954. These are also important point in while studying this marriage in India. Okay, not you should remember the years and this acts: Hindu Marriage Act of 1955 and Special Marriage Act of 1954. Then rise in the age of marriage due to concerns for career and higher education. When people started to give more importance to their career and when people started to, choose education over marriage, this has also resulted in the increased age of marriage. Uh, when we evaluate our society 10 years back, we can see that girls getting married at the age of 18 or 19 or 20. But now we can see that girls, delaying their marriage and asking their parents to look, they will get married only after getting a job or after completing their studies. And now we can see people giving more importance to studies much more than marriage. So all these factors have also resulted in an increase in age of marriage. Then the formation of new types of families or new formations like live-in relationships, single parent families, same-sex marriages. These are also phenomenal changes which happened in marriage. Then emergence of matrimonial websites. This was also we can say this emergence of matrimonial websites has also brought a lot of changes in marriage in India. Like on the one side, this matrimonial websites actually gave people a no, not for everyone, but for at least for some people, this matrimonial websites gave a freedom to choose their own partners, or gave them the liberty to talk to these people before fixing their marriage or and something like things like that. But before that, our system was very pathetic. Like uh, marriages get fixed within one day or get fixed by one day, and the bride or groom might have seen each other only one time before marriage. So our system was like that. But by the emergence of matrimonial websites, people started to get more time to talk with each other or get to know each other and all. So on one hand, matrimonial systems has actually played some positive role in case of this changing marriage structure. But on the other hand, there is also some problematic things. Like now there are matrimonies which are specific to certain caste and religions, isn't it? Like Hindu matrimony, Muslim matrimony, like that. Not only religions, but there are specific matrimonies for each caste. So that kind of matrimonies will only emphasize the need of marrying within their own religion or caste. So on the one side, matrimonies have some positive, but on the other side, it also sometimes emphasizes endogamy. So that is the issue with matrimony. But still, it was a huge change in case of marriage systems in India. Now let's move to our next concept, which is patriarchy, entitlement, and sexual division of labor. So in context of our Indian society, this rituals, kinship relations, social roles, cultural values, all these factors determine the patriarchal structures in our society. And the entitlements or division of labor in our Indian society is different across various castes, ethnic groups, regions, age groups, religions, and classes. So, this division of labor and entitlements are different throughout India. It is not uniform throughout India. It is very much different. Or even we can find different types of division of labor within a same society also. So, like our Indian society, this division of labor and the systems of entitlements are also very much diverse in our society. And as we said earlier, our society was dominantly patriarchal in nature, and this extent of patriarchy is also reflected in nomenclatures also. For example, the title or the name Rashtrapati for President of India, it is a male centric name, or it is a it is a male centric name. So like this patriarchal nature of our society is reflected in now even nomenclatures, even in giving titles also. So like that, due to this patriarchy, there was sexual division of labor. There is still sexual division of labor prevalent in different parts of India. Okay. Then Karuna Ahmad, in his studies of educate, this is an article, studies of educated working women in India, trends and issues. So in this article, Karuna Ahmad proposed 4 characteristics of women's employment in India. First one is clustering of women in a few occupations. Still, women got few choices for doing. Now we can see more women coming forward to do some jobs which were traditionally deemed to be like jobs for men only. But now we can see more women coming in front for doing jobs like driving lorries or driving heavy vehicles or doing jobs like that. Now we can see small changes in case of such an aspect, but still women are clustered into a few occupations only. Still, majority of women have only a few choices to select from, or they are clustered or confined to a few occupations. Then clustering either in low status occupation or in the lower ranks of the prestigious profession. Women are confined either in low status occupation or in the lower ranks of the prestigious profession. Then another issue is women receive lower salaries than men. Then another one is a high proportion of highly educated and professionally trained unemployed women, which means that we can find a huge population of women who are highly educated and they have professional skills and they are professionally trained, but still they are unemployed. Mainly because of the issues of marriage and all. Women never get a chance to, or many of the women are confined to their families doing domestic jobs and all, even though they are highly educated and professional. So in India, there is a high proportion of highly educated and professional trained women who are unemployed. So these are the 4 characteristics of women's employment in India identified by Karuna Ahmad. But not only in working spaces also, but in our home itself, there are similar divisions of work or division of labor exist. Isn't it like in our houses also we can say this domestic works like washing plates or cooking or washing clothes are deemed to be, people would say that women will do that. Then there are some other kind of jobs like some other kind of jobs which need some more physical strength or some kind of jobs, then people would say the male member of the family would do that. So in this way, in our home itself, we can find similar division of labor. As I said earlier, household chores are attributed as feminine or it is attributed as a female's job. Then another issue or another discrimination is that ritually only women are obliged to keep vrata or fast. Have you ever seen any men taking vrata for the well-being of his wife? I have never heard about that. Maybe in some societies we can find some kind of vrata like that also, but commonly only we can see women, taking vrata for the well-being of her husband only. So ritually also women are obliged to keep that kind of fast and rituals and all. Then even when women are employed in outside work, even when a woman is working outside home, still she has to do domestic works. After coming from the work, then she will do the domestic works. So in this perspective, we can say that women is doing a double shift of work. In the morning, she will go to her office to do all the office works, and when evening she come back to home, then she starts to do her domestic works also. So in that case, we can say she is doing a double shift of work. Okay, so that is about the patriarchy, entitlement, and sexual division of labor in India. Then let's move to our next concept, which is regional variations of kinship in India. So 𝙬𝙗𝙬 𝙬𝙗𝙬 divided India into 4 cultural kinship zones based on changing or based on different kinship patterns. She divided India into 4 cultural kinship zones, and she proposed this classification in her book Kinship Organizations in India, which got published in 1943. So she classified India into 4 cultural kinship zones: kinship in north, kinship in the central India, kinship in southern India, and kinship in eastern India. So kinship in north, some of the major features of kinship in north is that there is a clear distinction between matrilineal and patrilineal kins. And then there are clear and specific terminology. Yeah, I mentioned this earlier. In some societies, so in northern societies or societies in the northern part of India, there are clear and specific terminologies to mention each of the kins. And in northern parts, Sapinta rule is exercised. Sapinta rule, we already discussed about this. So, Sapinta rule is also a practice of exogamy, or people were not allowed to marry within, I think, 3 generations from father's side and 5 generations from mother's side. So, that kind of an exogamic rule is Sapinta rule. So, in northern parts of India, this Sapinta rule was exercised. Then there was also village exogamy. People were restricted from marrying within same village. So here we are not talking about, we are not saying that, or 𝙬𝙗𝙬 𝙬𝙗𝙬 was not saying that in all villages they follow village exogamy, but she has found societies which following village exogamy in northern parts. Okay, maybe not in every northern societies, but even in some societies she found this practice of village exogamy. That's why she included this in this kinship zone. Okay, so village exogamy was also practiced by some societies in northern India. Then there was 4 Gotra exogamy rule also. So this 4 Gotra exogamy rules also means that people were restrained from marrying within the 4 generations of Gotra within 4 generations of Gotra, like from one's own Gotra, or from the generation of one's own Gotra, from mother's Gotra, generation of mother's Gotra, grandmothers and great grandmothers. So like that, 4 Gotra exogamy rule was also practiced in some parts of northern India. That these are the major features of kinship in north. Then when it comes to kinship in central India, it is a mixed patterns of north and south. And there were some peculiar local rules in Gujarat. And in some parts, levirate also practiced. What was levirate? We studied it yesterday's class. So levirate means a woman marrying her husband's brother after the death of her husband. That is levirate. So in some parts of central India, levirate is also practiced. And then hypergamy was also existing. Hypergamy means in a marriage, when the status of the groom is higher than the bride, that kind of a marriage is known as hypergamy. So in some parts of central India, hypergamy was also existing. Then in kinship in southern India, there was no strict village exogamy. People can marry from within their own villages. So there was no strict village exogamy. There was preferential marriages. Like we said yesterday, we can find cousin marriages or parallel cousin marriages throughout southern India. So there was preferential marriages in South India. Then there was no clear kinship terminology. That also I said about this earlier. Like calling mama. We used to call mama, or we use the term mama to call different kind of kins. So there is no clear kinship terminology in southern India. We can use a single term to call different types of kins. Then there is, in some part of southern India, there was clan exogamy. Clan exogamy was there in some societies of southern India. And in southern India, levirate is a taboo. People would say it was not a common thing to do in southern India, like marrying husband's brother after the death of husband. It was considered as a taboo in southern India. And then matrilineal systems also exist in Taravada. Like Taravada structures, matrilineal system was existing in southern India. So these are the features of kinship in southern India proposed by Ivravati Karve. Next is kinship in eastern India. So in eastern India, or in some societies of eastern India, she found totemic clan exogamy, rare cross cousin marriages. Cross cousin marriages was there, but it was rare. And matrilineal relations were also there in eastern Indian societies. And there was a practice of bride price, which means that the groom's family would give money to the girl's father and like buy her by giving money. So that's a practice which was prevalent in some parts of eastern India. That is known as bride price. It was also prevalent in eastern India. Then there was dormitory system. It was also prevalent in some parts of eastern India. So dormitory system means young male and female members were allowed to live together in a same place, and they were also allowed to have premarital sex, and after that they have the choice to whether marry or don't get married. So they had the choice to get married with each other also. So that kind of a system was known as dormitory system, and it was prevalent in some parts of eastern India. So these are the various features of 4 zones of kinship, which was classified by Ivravati Karve. Okay, I hope it is clear. So that's all for today's class. Now let's look at some questions regarding today's class, or regarding the things we studied in today's class. First question is, who made a classification of India into 4 cultural kinship zones? Yeah, we just studied this, and the answer is Ivravati Karve. She divided India into northern kinship zone, southern, central, and eastern. Then, which act is also known as Sharda Act of 1929? And the answer is Child Marriage Restraint Act. Then, next question. According to I.P. Desai, a family in which only 2 generations live together is known as marginal joint family. Okay. Then, a family in which married brothers live together with their children is known as fraternal joint family. Then, based on degree of kinship, primary kin of our primary kin is our secondary kin. Isn't it? The primary kin of our primary kin is our secondary kin. Then, matrilineal system, which was prevalent in Kerala, is known as Marumagathayam or Taravada family. Okay. Okay, so that's all for today's class. So this was the last part of our family marriage and kinship. I hope it was useful for you. And if you're finding this classes interesting and useful, you can actually join our UGC NET Sociology course of Professor Academy. And we will be starting our special classes by next week. So if you are interested, join now. You can join now. You can call this numbers in order to take admission. And even if you have any inquiry regarding the admission processes, you can contact these numbers. And also, in addition to sociology, we are providing courses for these subjects which are given here also. So if you are interested, you can contact these numbers. Okay. So that's it for today. Uh, Thank you for joining. See you in the next class. Good night.